End of day 41 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 2, Phase 2. It's the first day of evidence of Eric Docker, the former Detective Chief Inspector and Detective Inspector within the SDS, Mr. Angry, as we've been calling him. I'm joined by the mass ranks of the Undercover Research Group, Eveline, Lubbers and Donal Driscoll. What did you make of his evidence today?
Well, he doesn't remember a lot, does he? No, he comes, as you said, he comes across as very angry that he's here in the first place. He just doesn't recall anything about what Bob Lambert has done, delivering intelligence on placing incendiary devices, the running up to it, the aftermath. He just doesn't remember. But the impression you get is that he's kind of covering up for Lambert, and that makes you wonder. It has all the signs of an agent provocateur operation, where Lambert basically, set up a cell, had people placing incendiary devices, and did that himself as well. And Docker just, there's no reports from Lambert. If there were any, Docker hardly read them or didn't question how he got the intelligence and how much he was involved. And he just, so many times he said there was no reason to read, even to read his reports. But Lambert was such a trusted agent, undercover agent, and he was so well at what he was doing that, you didn't need to sort of question his methods or. So yeah, he's getting Lambert is getting full cover of Docker to the extent that, the intelligence that led up to the arrest of Andrew Clark and Jeff Shepard was not disclosed to the court. So in fact, they've been, although they did it, it's unsafe convictions, and they should, and he just says. Docker just says, well, I couldn't be bothered with that. That was not my pay grade. And it's incredible. What was he a manager for? He didn't read reports. He just signed them. He can't remember anything. He never questioned Bob Lambert and what he was doing, how close he was. He just, he just waves everything away. And he's lying or not remembering things so often that it must be obvious for even to admitting that there's something very nasty going on here.
Yeah. I mean, he got caught out a couple of times, though, right? I mean, he said he admitted that he must have made a mistake himself, that he signed off on 2 reports that showed Helen Steele being in the same place, different places at the same time, opposite ends of the country. He said the court probably was misled, and he got caught in a couple of other ways in terms of admitting that probably Bob Lambert was in an ALF cell. And what do you make of that?
He knew everything was going on. I think. To me, his evidence reads as trying to deny the obvious. He knew exactly what was going on, and he's got 2 choices: either admit that he knew what was going on, or pretend he was an incompetent manager. And he's gone with I'm the incompetent manager. I don't recall anything. I didn't do anything. I'm just going to pretend the facts didn't exist because I'm stupid. He's gone for the idiocy defence. Well, unfortunately, he doesn't actually wash because he's not been consistent enough. As it's quite clear from his definitive no's and no, I wouldn't do this. It's like, okay, I've got this story. The story doesn't fit, but I'm going to stick to this story. He just looks stupid. I think his anger is partly coming from the fact that, having gone down for the idiocy defence, he makes the unit look stupid. He shows, well, there was no management. You weren't asking the right questions. And Barr kept going, well, why didn't you ask this question? Why didn't you ask this question? Oh, I didn't. Oh, Lambert was so trusted. Well, it's clearly Lambert couldn't be trusted, so that means you're an idiot. Or you were deliberately turning a blind eye. I mean, if you're turning a blind eye, you're not doing your job either. So he's got no out, and he just keeps digging this hole deeper and deeper. And I think Barr's just taking him slowly through, and I think Barr's realised that there is nowhere to go with this story except deeper into the hole. And yeah, it's in some ways it's quite painful to watch, but also the denials themselves I think are becoming quite interesting because of that. You say step away from just what he's just denied, but think about how it fits into the bigger picture. Suddenly you've got a new picture.
Yeah, I mean, he admitted to not engaging his critical facilities. I mean, like, he really is debasing himself, essentially. Saying, like, it was, he went on about, well, the Home Office used to, sign off the annual reports every year, to which, Barr says, carry on and don't get caught, am I right? And he was like, yeah, that was pretty much it. And he just, he really, like, just debased himself, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the things I picked up with Barr keeps using these quite nice little lines, and he just ends up having to, don't look, don't see. So Barr keeps getting him to admit these quite telling phrases, and it's like, this is interesting.
Yeah, very much, and also just keeps kind of laying these little traps. It's like, so you're saying you're incompetent? Oh yeah, it was my mistake. I must have. I didn't read it very closely. And it's just like, so you're not very good at it. The whole unit wasn't very good, essentially. That's basically what he appears to be saying.
Yeah, well, we knew that, but it's good to hear it from someone involved. Now, it's really weird, of course. I don't have his further career, really, in my head, but it's like nobody, he's also very much a policeman, and the way he acts and talks and just trying to give straight yes no answers. So it's like it so doesn't fit with the stupidity defense and sort of breaking himself down or his self-worth or his, so that it's all coming together, like he was like greeted with a very, are you deviant? Devious. And my wife said, you were devious. No, I'm not. That was the first question, that set the tone for the day. And I think that sort of, he came in angry already, but it didn't get any less during the day.
It was very interesting that Barr led off with are you devious, because the entire pattern has basically been to show how devious is like, okay, here's the bar, and you've cleared it by a mile. But also I think Mitting is going to have to look at his evidence and compare it to Crouch's on Wednesday last week, and they're describing two separate events, and it's like it has to come down to who's most believable. Now, Crouch ain't the most believable, Lambert ain't the most believable, and this guy's clearly not very believable at all. So it's like, when you get that amount of discrepancy, you always expect a bit of discrepancy in evidence, but when you get this amount, it's like they're all hiding something. They just haven't got together to, sit in the canteen and cook up their stories on this one. Considering they all have the same lawyers, this is quite amazing.
And it's like, it's one of the most important things that happened in the time of the SDS.
The most, arguably.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so incredible that they haven't lined up their stories or that they haven't got an answer to all of this. It's like they're all, they're dropping each other, or they're just putting the blame on each other, and in the end, it's just one big mess.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought another thing that Barr did really well was some of his juxtapositions. So just after he got Docker to say, oh yeah, I made a mistake, I signed off 2 reports that were putting the same person in other ends of the country. Yeah, I wasn't reading things very closely. Yes, a dishonest undercover officer could have misled me quite a lot. Barr, just without pausing for breath, went, let's talk about your promotion. Which I thought was just brilliant.
And the thing about his promotion is it comes just after all the Debenham stuff, and it's just like, even his own career is predicated on this thing. It's like, your promotion wasn't really justified, was it?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And it underlines the lie that he can't remember anything about it. This was a seminal moment in your career, which catapulted you forward. Of course you're going to remember it. The second thing I thought it did, which was very good, was we were shown a report from the August of 1988, written by Docker, about extremism on political demonstrations in London at the time. And it talks at great length about the SWP and how they're responsible for all sorts of different things. And it was put to him, what was his experience of disorder by the SWP? And he had to, his answer was, well, on their placards, which very clearly say Socialist Workers' Party, they're trying to incite. And just showed himself to just not have any understanding of.
And also, he was asked, like, have you seen any public disorder by them? And he went, well, I haven't been on many demos, like, to be honest. It's just, well, anyway.
It just shows how they set themselves up as experts and then show that they're really, really not.
But also the ideology. So maybe I bang on about too much about the ideology of special branches. So anti-democracy, so anti... like protest is evil because protest is done by left-wingers and left-wingers are evil. It's so clearly their mentality. And it's like moments like that, and it's like, well, SWP go out and do marches. Evil! They're clearly trying to overthrow the state. And it's like, no, it's called democracy. It's called the European Convention on Human Rights. Can you quote that? No. Well, it's ironic that we on the left broadly can tell you what most of the Human Rights Act stuff is. As any one of those coppers who are meant to know the law, meant to do this, well, not the faintest idea. It's just like, don't like them, they're lefties.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I thought was interesting, just towards the end of the day, was it was put to him that how the question really was around how well known the SDS was within Special Branch, and it was pointed out that a huge number of senior officers had already been in the SDS at some point by the time that Docker's in the unit anyway, and that actually the Special Branch isn't very big. And to which Docker went, 400 officers. And when you actually start realising that Special Branch 400 officers, how many of those senior officers have already been in the SDS at some point? Everybody, like the senior members of C Squad or whatever would have known anyway, senior members of S Squad would have known anyway. Who on earth in Special Branch didn't know about the existence of the SDS by this point? I mean, it just, when we were looking at the officers who did the raid on Bob Lambert's flat, we heard from Mickey Couch last week that, they knew that he was undercover officer and all this sort of thing. And then he's, oh no, they wouldn't have known. Of course they fucking knew. I mean, he's trying to maintain some very untenable lies, really, with a lot of his evidence.
So one of the things that came out last week is, so why do we need to know a description about where the SDS head office is and stuff? And it's like back office and the front office, and basically there's a corridor with all the rest of the Special Branch, and they're all walking past and forth, and the people on training are going there to deliver the files or pick up the files, and you step out of the corridor and you have a chat with Chief Superintendent or DCI and C Squad, and it's like, so it's one of those bits of questioning that basically undermines, we're super secret even within Special Branches. Like, yeah, but you had a sign on the office going top secret. Look at us. Look at the people with the long hair going in there. It's just the credibility is slowly gets undermined. And there's other stuff that'll come out in the future about how they all socialize with each other. The fact that on the course, such disappeared, came back 5 years later, and it was just like, okay, people aren't. Okay, Special Branch, they're not looking too bright at the moment, but they're not that stupid.
Yeah, I mean, he even said that there was a question at one point about, like, how long, you'd have to have liaised with senior officers about this. He went, it was at most a 10-minute walk away to New Scotland Yard. So, I mean, it's really, they've tried to give the impression as we've been going through the inquiry, it was in like a nondescript flat in a house on, the other side of London, and it's like, no, 10 minutes walk from Scotland Yard. Yeah. I mean, come on. Is there anything else you want to add? I mean, we are coming to the... I've just noticed that Alison is off screen. Alison, do you want to say something? If I pass you the mic off screen, you won't be on screen.
I'm nearly on screen.
You are nearly on screen. As long as you don't go past... Yeah, you just take that and say what you will.
I feel like I'm about...
Speaking now is off screen. It's Alison from Spies Lives. Alison, what do you think?
Well, with the microphone, I feel like I'm ready to do some karaoke. But I won't. What's the question?
I mean, basically, what did you make of Eric Docker and his evidence?
I thought he was a very angry man. That's what I thought, a very grumpy, angry man who was crying and screaming from his eyes. That's what I thought. He was very pissed off about a man of his stature being spoken to like that. I missed this morning, so I would follow that on Twitter and could see that... he obviously couldn't remember very much. This afternoon, he seemed to remember things very clearly, which was odd. It depends what he was asked, yeah. I mean, I just don't trust any of them, obviously, strangely. And, no, it was horrible, really properly horrible. I'm not going to repeat what I said when he walked in. No, I'm not. But he did remind me of, let's just say, the banality of evil. on Holocaust Memorial Day. That's all I'm going to say. He really did. He just like, I mean, I say it because one of the themes of how these very bad things can happen is the idea of fractured bureaucracy. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing fractured, it wasn't me, it was the security services. The officers, the undercover officers were doing one little bit of the jigsaw. I was doing another little bit. MI5 was doing another little bit. And that way, no one is able to take responsibility for any of it because it's all so fractured. And I think, I'm not making a crass, glib parallel with the Nazis because I wouldn't do that. But I do think there is something about that idea of fractured bureaucracy. And that's what we're seeing here. Very, like really banal, not, just banal men, very dull men who really rate themselves and have a way, an overinflated sense of their own self-importance. And I do think as well, and we've written it down on our Twitter, but that phrase that David Barr used about, what did he say about the reports? Are they unreliable? What did they, basically he didn't say self-important. I can't remember the phrase he used, but it wasn't that either, but are they reports that are basically full of made-up rubbish that no one checks on and that justify your own existence? Yes, they are. He put it much better. There was a phrase he used. But I think it's further evidence of that as well. That's my commentary.
Coming back tomorrow?
Coming back tomorrow. Wouldn't miss it, Tom. Wouldn't miss it. Yeah.
All right, thanks for that, and thanks for Alison. She was off. If you were wondering where the voice was coming from, she is off screen. Anything else you want to add, or should we call it a day? Yeah. Thanks for joining. I'll be doing the Twitter Spaces this evening. Join in for that, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.